Hello and welcome to another An Old Man Watches, and today I'm going to be talking about 1977's The Crater Lake Monster. And in this film, we begin with much excitement when hitherto undiscovered Native American cave paintings are found near the small community of Crater Lake. These paintings are centuries old, which is notable, but not unusual in and of itself. What is unusual, though, is that they depict a creature that is clearly a plesiosaur, an animal that has been extinct for millions of years, and therefore has no business being in paintings that are only hundreds of years old. The number of unusual phenomena in Crater Lake doubles to 2 when it is also the scene of a meteor crashing to Earth. Excitable scientists become even more excited by this development. Now, clearly, if you've seen a movie before, you can put 2 and 2 together and calculate that the meteor is going to wake up a dormant monster, and it will then go on a rampage. And you would technically be right in that calculation, though the Crater Lake Monster is going to do some decidedly odd things en route to that destination. I suspect that budgetary restrictions are a key factor in these strange decisions. The film had significant issues with its promised financing, but that doesn't make those decisions any less odd. Ironically, despite its financial problems and its weird decision-making as a result of it, it was apparently financially pretty successful, at least on a cost-to-box office ratio. But anyway, let's dig into the film in more detail. So a key problem with this movie is that structurally, it's basically 2 completely different films that have been spliced together. The movie opens with our excited scientists and their scientific excitements. Accompanying the scientists is the local sheriff, who is clearly there to be the film's man of action. And then, having been constantly on screen while the movie sets up the plesiosaur paintings and the meteor monster trigger, all 3 of these characters basically completely disappear for the next 45 minutes. And instead, the movie entirely switches its focus to 2 dim-witted locals with entrepreneurial ambitions that far exceed their actual abilities. This duo undertake a variety of unfunny slapstick sequences in their efforts to earn money by renting boats to holiday makers. Efforts that frequently lead to said holiday makers being eaten or terrorised by a monster. Which is an odd thing to kind of juxtapose with comedy, but it's what the film does. Ultimately, these 2 characters will be pretty much unceremoniously dumped from the screen so that the scientist and the sheriff can pop back in for the film's rather lacklustre final sequence. It really does feel like they filmed the beginning and end of a creature feature, realised they didn't have an actual middle for the movie, or the money to make it, and just sort of wedged in some comedy bits because they were cheap and easy to make or something. It feels like 2 different movies. It really does. Secondly, the eponymous monster is easily the best thing in the film. The stop-motion work to create it is pretty solid, and while the full-size effects aren't of the same standard, they're certainly a step above the film's acting, script, or other special effects. It's got the world's least convincing ancient cave paintings, and the meteor sequence is by far the film's worst attempt at an effects sequence, looking utterly inauthentic. Now, to be fair to the film, like I said, it had massive problems with financing, to the point that they had filmed a whole bunch of scenes during the day intending to do post-production to make them appear like they were at night, and then there wasn't money to actually make them appear like they were at night, so they just had to use them as they are. But still, the lack of money really shows. So look, overall, I think if you're going to pick just one thing to do well in a monster movie, then it's the right call to make it the actual monster. But when you have a case like this, where you can only manage to get said monster on screen for very brief amounts of time, and you're left with a movie that is 90% filler of, at best, mediocre, and frequently significantly lower than that quality, you're still not going to have a good film. You need a truly stellar creature to make up for something like that, and Crater Lake's offering is well short of stellar. It's fine, I guess. It's no Harryhausen stop-motion creature, let's get that clear. And then finally, one element of likely unintended entertainment from the Crater Lake Monster stems from its very 70s aesthetics and visual cues. How do we know this character is a scientist? We know this character is a scientist because he wafts around an unlit pipe while he does his talking. We know that this other character is a man of action because he has a fantastic moustache. We know a third character is a city schmuck because he has a gloriously hideous white suit. The film is not subtle in its use of visual cues, and they are visual cues that are very much a product of its era. I will say that the film does squeeze in some surprisingly solid visuals of Crater Lake itself. There are some nicely staged shots of the water and its shoreline. So overall, should you watch this? Well, probably not. This film's budgetary woes, its dodgy effects, and its perplexing structure definitely undermine it at pretty much every level. Ultimately, it's not a movie I can recommend you watch unless, like me, you have a fondness for films that are so bad they're good. So that's The Crater Lake Monster. Next time, we're going to go from a 1977 movie that was undeservedly profitable to one of the biggest financial flops of 2008, the animated fantasy feature Delgo. Not the biggest financial flop of any animated movie I've ever seen, but certainly a big one. But that'll be next time. In the meantime, thanks for watching this one, and I hope you enjoyed it.